there's kind of an inherent tension in saying European honeybee colony. And so a big part of what we're trying to do is establish these honeybee hives for the purposes of teaching people more about beekeeping, more about the ecology of how all of these living systems work, and to really get a sense of how we can be living in harmony with all of the life that's around us. So when I approached Eduardo about the potential of setting up honeybee hives here at the farm to support the pollination of all of the plants, we had a few agreements to make. And one of the agreements that we had to make was we were going to establish just a small number and never more than would overwhelm the entire space of the entire farm. So while we want to introduce folks to bees and have an opportunity to work with them, we never want to have so many that we're overwhelming the native bee species populations that are here. So 4 or 5 is generally a good number of hives to have that won't necessarily overtake or sort of devastate the natural ecology. The second agreement we had to make was that we had to begin to change the language around how we do beekeeping. So a minister from Philadelphia named Lorenzo Langstroth was the one who invented what we call the modern day honeybee hive. And a lot of his language, 1850s, a lot of the language is very hierarchical. So what do you generally, I'm sure you know the name of the most important bee in the hive is? The queen. Would be called the queen. We don't refer to her as the queen, we refer to her as the mother. The workers are her children, or the sisters in the hive. The idea that this is not a colony, this is a honeybee home, right? And so changing that very, the language around how we talk about who occupies these spaces gives us a different way to think about what's actually going on. What you have here are 5 distinct honeybee hives. They are interrelated and interconnected in that they are the same species, but they have very different experiences, very different personalities, they're all as distinct as you are from each other. They're in the wintering process in that as you look around, there isn't a lot for them to be foraging on right now. So what we're trying to do is get them prepared for being able to survive over the winter, where the mother will continue to lay eggs, but at a drastically reduced rate. So bees will still continue to be produced, but not as many as there normally are. At the height of the summer, one of these boxes can have as many as 60,000 bees. During the winter, that number will drop to 10,000 or less. So we're trying to do our best to make sure that they have all of the resources that they need so that they can make it over the winter, so that next spring, when it starts to heat up, we'll have big, healthy hives once again. Oftentimes, honeybee hives are set up from a commercial standpoint for the purposes of honey and for honey production and for the sale of honey. That's not the primary purpose of these honeybees. The primary purpose here is to bring folks to work with the bees, to learn about them, to actually have the experiences of opening up the hives and handling the frames and looking at the bees and watching all of the activity and action that happens, as well as helping with the production of the farm by having pollinators very close by to help with the pollination process.
Do you guys make honey though? Like, can they make honey?
Yeah, they can. So if you look at the boxes, you'll see that there's 2 different sizes. The one on the bottom is much bigger, that's called a deep, and then the one in the middle is smaller, it's called a shallow. So usually any honey frames that are contained in the hive will be contained in those shallow frames, and the frame can weigh anywhere between 5 and 7 pounds. If we were going to harvest honey, that's where we would get it from.